It's wonderful to be back for the 2025 ROMA conference with so many of my cabinet and caucus colleagues. I also want to thank all the associations here as well, along with the mayors and the regions and the councillors, and just one big happy family. As long as we keep giving money, it's going to be a big happy family. That's the most important thing. And my thanks to all the folks at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, including Chair Krista Lowry, the Board of Directors, and all the members for having me here today. It's great to see so many familiar faces. Friends, in the last 7 years, ever since our government was first elected, we've worked hard to deliver for rural regions and towns of this province. We've seen past governments take these communities for granted, underinvesting in the north, allowing rural roads and infrastructure to fall in disrepair, shutting down the vital Northlander train line and many other areas, and leaving those living in rural areas feeling forgotten and neglected. Our government truly appreciates rural communities and their residents and understands how they make Ontario stronger. In fact, because we know how important it is to have a dedicated rural voice at the table, we created a ministry dedicated to rural affairs, led by my great minister, Minister Lisa Thompson. She is a champ, a real champion, who understands and fights for rural Ontario every single day. And it's amazing. You see her perform at the cabinet table is phenomenal about any rural issues and dancing up and down and getting everyone's attention. But I absolutely love Lisa. Our government has made game-changing investments throughout rural and northern communities. We've heard the concerns shared by our rural municipal partners about the financial challenges they face, from delivering essential services to their growing populations. That's why in the last year's fall economic statement, we announced that we're increasing the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund by $100 million. That's funding earmarked for small, rural, and northern municipalities to help them provide the services their residents need and deserve. Just this past year, we also announced a $5 million annual investment through our new Ontario Transit Investment Fund. Funding that will help Ontario's smaller communities build safer and more dependable transit services. And of course, we continue to work closely with the municipalities to build more homes across the province. To speed up construction timelines from homes build, we recently increased our investment in the Housing Enabling Water System Fund to more than $1.2 billion. Helping more municipalities build out their drinking water, wastewater, stormwater infrastructure. This includes $120 million from our Building Faster Fund that is being reserved for small, rural, and northern communities. As we build more homes across rural Ontario, we're also making sure the necessary technology is in place to improve connectivity and bring high-speed internet to every corner of the province. I always say roads are important, right? Roads are critical, and water is important too. Everything's important. But nothing connects people more than having high-speed internet, and it's absolute priority. We're spending $4.2 billion on making sure we connect every single person across Ontario, and all in the far north First Nations communities, they're going to have high-speed internet as well. We've invested $71 million to provide better cellular service coverage in Eastern Ontario and have committed $669 million to bring faster broadband coverage to rural and First Nations communities in the north. We're also helping to unlock the economic potential of rural Ontario by investing more than $5.7 million in 85 projects, chosen through the most recent intake of our Rural Economic Development Program. These projects are helping to create jobs, address labor force challenges, and boost economic development in every corner of the province. And just yesterday, Minister Thompson announced an exciting revamp of this program. The new program, the Rural Ontario Development Program, will have its funding double to $10 million per year. This will help rural communities leverage new economic opportunities and prepare for growth. I want everyone here to know that we're also working hard to improve access to medical care for rural residents. We hear a lot about that. I just want to tell you something. I'm going off. This is where it gets dangerous. My team starts going. So let me talk about healthcare, since we just mentioned that. It's ongoing. I call it continuous improvement, right? We've seen massive growth, faster than Florida and Texas. They're the two fastest growing states in the U.S. They see about 365,000 new residents every year. We saw over 800,000 people last year. Those 800,000 people are coming here for a better life. We welcome them. We need to make sure that they get their working permits a lot quicker, get in the fray. But guess what? That puts a real heavy load onto our roads, onto our transit, onto our education system, onto our healthcare system, not to mention the year before. The growth is unprecedented. We're going to be taking over New York State in just a few years. We're about... I should have... Boy, you guys really jumped the gun. I was going to say take them over by population, and I thought, okay, let's... might as well take them over anyways. No, we're about... We're about 16 million people. They're about 18.5 million, and the growth we're seeing is absolutely staggering. But put these numbers into perspective. These are pretty staggering numbers. Since we've been in office in healthcare, we've hired 15,000 more doctors, over 100,000 new nurses, 30,000 nursing students in our colleges and universities. For the first time in decades, as long as I can remember, we're actually building new medical schools. We're making sure those seats in the medical schools, as we're increasing the seats, it's going to be 100% Canadian. Out of the 100%, 95%, I think is 90%, have to be from Ontario. I'm tired of going around. We go to these events. Where's little Johnny and Jane? Well, they're in Ireland at medical school. They're down in the Caribbean or in the United States, and what happens? They don't come back. And then I look into it a little deeper. Anywhere from 18 to 20%, the foreign students were coming, not staying here. They were utilizing our infrastructure, our buildings, our schools, our universities, and they take seats away from our kids. Well, we put an end to that real quick. So now it's 100% Canadian, 90% Ontarian students, $50 billion into infrastructure, 50 new sites around the province. You're either getting a new hospital in addition to a hospital, and we continue to see requests come in. So we're going to do everything we can with that $50 billion. I could still talk for 20 minutes, but I got to get back onto the speech. So we're thrilled to launch our Practice Ready Ontario program to get 100 foreign-trained doctors who want to practice in rural regions licensed and ready to see patients more quickly. And I love, by the way, I love nurse practitioners too. We're hiring a whole bunch of nurse practitioners to support rural communities. This effort will connect an additional 120,000 rural Ontarians to the health care they need and when and where they need it. We're also investing $93 million to purchase 2 new high-speed aircrafts for the Orange Air ambulance fleet, and they're just great folks over at Orange there. And we're constructing a new Orange Air hangar in Simcoe County, and they're going to be working hand in hand in that hangar with the OPP, so those living in rural areas can be better covered in an emergency. These, yeah, they're absolute champions. And we're getting some high-speed airplanes and everything else that they need to go with it. The rising cost of policing was another concern you shared with us. And we saw they just ramped it up, the cost of the policing. And I'm happy to say here that we recently proposed over $77 million in financial relief to municipalities to help offset the increased cost of the police services provided by our great Ontario Provincial Police. We love our first responders in this province. And folks, I couldn't be prouder to announce that we're getting closer to seeing a bigger and better Northlander train service running again very soon. And I got to give a shout out to Vic Fidelli. He's been on this for the last 5-6 years. Finally, we're moving forward. Last month, we announced that construction is set to begin on new platforms at steps along the Northlander corridor route, meaning communities stretching from here to Muskoka, to North Bay, to Timmins, and all the stops in between will have easier access to more job opportunities, healthcare, and education. Thank you. The revived Northlander will also help unlock the province's full economic potential by supporting northern industries and the resource sectors that are set to expand. And that, I'm going to talk about the resource sector when we talk about these tariffs coming in a second. My friends, all the measures we have put in place support the economic vitality of rural Ontario, but we can't ignore the uncertain times we're facing right now. In a matter of hours, President Trump takes office in Washington, D.C., and we have all heard his threats to impose major tariffs on Ontario exports, and these threats would go right across the country. This would be an absolute disaster for Canadian and American workers, including in rural Ontario. In our agri-food sector alone, just think of this, in 2025, more than $45 billion in two-way trade was carried out between the U.S. and Ontario. Our economies are linked together, and unnecessary U.S. tariffs will hurt workers on both sides of the border. I always tell my American friends, 9 million Americans wake up every single morning to produce products for Ontario alone. Our high-grade nickel, 47% of our high-grade nickel, the best nickel in the world, gets shipped down to the U.S. We make sure that we keep the lights on to 1.5 million homes in Michigan, in New York, and in Minnesota. I always say, I want to ship them more electricity. I want to make sure we ship them more critical minerals, no matter if it's our great nickel or the other critical minerals that we have. And we're stronger when we work together. That's why I've been making the case to governors, congressmen and women, and senators from across the U.S. to make the right call and work with us to establish Fortress AMCAN. You know, folks, I'm on the phone every day. Right after I leave here, I'm going to get on the phone with a few more governors and making sure they understand how important the relationship between Ontario and the U.S., not to mention Canada and the U.S. If you think of this, we're the #1 export destination to 17 states, #2 to 11. And I talked to the great governor of Kentucky, and I remember on the last tariffs we threw on the bourbon, first thing out of his mouth is, "Don't touch my bourbon." And I said, "Governor, that's a serious business down there when you touch with their bourbon. It's like messing with their LCBO." So I said, "You know, Governor, you got to talk to your president, because the first thing we're doing, we're getting your bourbon." And I've sent a direction to the LCBO, these tariffs come, to clear off every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. Let's start promoting more Ontario-made wines and the vodkas and spirits. That's what we need to do. We're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the entire world. They will feel the pain. I will make sure I communicate this to our other premiers that they should be following suit. I'm sorry? Yeah, we will. We'll keep going. Canada's not for sale, as we say up here, right? So this is a strategic alliance between America and Canada that would improve security and promote economic growth on both sides of the border. Fortress AMCAN would involve leveraging Ontario's natural resources, Ontario's energy, Ontario's manufacturing might, and Ontario's agricultural sector to support both Canada and the United States and make us the safest, richest, most successful, and most secure countries in the entire world. This is the outcome we're working towards because it's the best interest of Americans and Canadians. But I want to assure you, as the new U.S. administration takes office today, that our government will never stop standing up for Ontario jobs and working for Ontarians, including our rural communities. I promise you as Premier of Ontario that if President Trump's tariffs make retaliation necessary, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with the rest of Team Canada to fight back using every single tool in our toolbox. And it shouldn't have to come to this, folks, and I hope it really doesn't. But as Premier of Ontario, I will always fight for the people of this province, including our incredible rural communities, and I'll do everything in my power, and I'll use every single tool in our toolbox to stand up for Ontario and Canada. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for your contributions, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you. Appreciate it.